to actually go back to what Mark was just actually talking about, that these are actually not mutually exclusive, but they are can be actually used to enforce each other, right? And with all the data that's actually going to be generated with the digital technology, you can actually start to see that how they may actually be enforcing each other. So one of the things that a lot of the companies are talking about is we're going to actually use that to optimize. So what is the means of optimizing? I think we actually are seeing the glimpse of what that might actually look like. Okay. So with the understanding of data science, operations science, and what we're actually starting to see in terms of intelligent production, what we want to do is actually start thinking about how they actually come together and what it actually means. So Todd actually introduced this concept of self-organizing and self-optimizing. And it actually has all these devices, equipments that are actually trying to communicate with each other, not just actually provide information one way and provide information the other way. Okay. The concept that these are the actual cyber systems that actually that are supported by AI, ML, sensors, 5G, and all that, that's actually nothing actually that's new. There are people that are already actually talking about the concept of Industry 4.0, Supply Chain 4.0, Smart Supply Chain, and Digital Twin. I think what actually makes it very different is where it says actually as the operations science and actually provides an overall platform on which to actually optimize a production system. Okay, so if we were to actually add the digital component to the diagram that Mark just actually presented, we may be able to add something like this. Okay. Sensors, robots, drones, autonomous vehicles, wearables, mobile devices, and applications. Now, with this, the question becomes, how do you actually make this a reality? In order to make this a reality, how are we going to actually gather and process all the data being created across the supply network to where and how to provide feedback and feed-forward control? So I'm not sure if actually everyone's familiar with these two terminologies. The feed-forward and feedback actually means that you actually are trying to, for the perturbation that's actually occurring, how do you actually minimize or anticipate the implications or impact so that we can actually minimize the effect that it will actually have on the overall system? So how do you actually figure where to provide it and how to provide it? Okay. And when we actually start to talk about the actual adding sensors, the question becomes, what to instrument? So what does that mean? Are we going to actually add sensors to pipes, to trailers, to containers? When they're put together, are we going to actually add to an assembly? And if it's actually attached, how are we going to actually attach it? So if you try to actually attach these things, the question actually becomes, how do you attach it? And can it stay attached? And if not, you can't actually stay attached, then you have to figure out how to effectively take it off before it actually some component actually goes into operation, right? What equipment and technology is best suited to capture data at the required frequency? So we know that there are sensors that can actually capture thousands of data points at any point, at every second. The problem is, do we actually need that? And what's suited to actually capture that? So we actually seen companies actually using drones to capture information. But for the frequency and the length of time it required, it actually became infeasible because of the time that the drones can actually stay in the sky. So if that's not the case, then what do we actually have to do? Especially on something that's actually very, very high altitude. Okay. So there are many, many questions that we need to still answer. And in order to actually trying to answer these questions, what we have done is actually invited some 4 experts to give us their insight. Okay. So here are the list of 4 speakers. Ravi from Cloudleaf will give us some insights on how to effectively gather and process the incredible amount of information to generate actionable insights. Martin from Stanford University will give us some examples of the digital technologies that are currently being used in the construction industry and the implications that it actually has. Gary will present how logistics of the future will make the intelligent production possible. And Shaker will provide exciting vision into supply chain 4.0.